Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 27th, 2010. We'll go ahead and take roll call.
Evelyn Miller,
Collis Adams.
Kim Ricard,
Kimberly Peace, Chair.
Susan Tucker, Jean Walker,
Patty Gale, staff.
Okay, oh, I don't know how these got put on here, but we're gonna have Jack Munn start. Is Jack Munn, right? Yes, unless you don't want to start, but I thought you might, okay.
he wants to go home too.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Thank you so much. We're here, not to take up too much of your time, because I know it's valuable, but we're trying to get all the towns in the Piscataqua watershed to score these resource values so that we can enter them into our GIS co-occurrence model. And by doing that, we've had to come out to some of the conservation commissions like you to kind of explain the process and help guide you through it, because it's kind of, there's some always good questions. But we have 9 resource values.
Let me interrupt you. This is in our packet.
Yeah,
Everyone
that's
should
the
have copies.
packet. There's a map of the watershed.
Right.
And at the very end of the written text, there's this score sheet.
Right.
See this? I've got an extra copy. What we want you to do is just go down through these different resources and get your opinion for the town of Goffstown, how important you feel they are to the town. And we want to score them. We can do it 2 ways. You could throw me the numbers, and I could write down all the numbers and average them up at the end of the day. Or you guys can kind of just talk to each other and, nod your heads and say, yeah, I kind of agree, that sounds right. But the scoring goes from down to 100 is 100. We got to make it equal 100. So, I mean, you could put a 20 on it if you feel it's really high in things, or a 0 if you don't feel it's important at all. So the very first one is aquifers, and the transmissivity is shown as either less than or greater than 2,000 feet per day, cubic feet per day. And that is typically means that that is the most permeable, most fluid aquifer in the community.
Jack, can I ask a question? What are these scores going to be used for?
We're going to weight the scores and enter them into a GIS model that will then, for all the town scores, kind of take a weighted average. And then it's going to overlay these. And then as they are overlaid, you get some co-occurrence of the resources lying on top of each other. And those areas where they start to stack up get a higher value at the end of the model. And those areas that don't stack up as much get kind of the lower end. So we put it into a model, basically.
So to be
And
used to...
it's numeric model.
Yes, so it's going to be used to demonstrate to residents or whatever the relative value or importance of certain...
Yeah, it would be actually to
locations, yeah.
demonstrate to the communities, all the 11 towns, and then the state of New Hampshire, and other land trusts and private organizations that are involved in conservation.
Okay.
Does that help explain why we're here? So aquifers, and if you could look on the map, you'll see aquifers. They're shown in these little maps that go around the edges. The aquifer areas in Goffstown are shown up here on the second one, but they pretty much fall along the river. Looks like they occupy much of the floodplain.
And we're ranking these compared to each other.
To each other.
As to what we feel like more important, less important, that sort of thing.
Yes. And let's go down through them, and then we can come back and rank them.
Okay.
Critical soils is the next one. You have prime farmland, farmland of statewide importance, highly erodible soils. Then the wildlife habitat, and this is directly from the state's wildlife habitat plan. And identifies tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 habitats. And tier 1 are the highest value. Then we've identified what we call ecologically important habitats. those are areas like pine barren, lowland spruce fir, forest, cliff, northern hardwood conifer, things like that where you get a lot of animals that start to use those areas for habitat purposes. Then we have the unfragmented blocks. These are large land holdings that are not divided up by roads. So they're still intact. So you'll have these big, huge pieces of property, anywhere from 500 to 1,000 acres in size,
Oh, that's all there is.
1,000 to 2,000 acres in size, and greater than 2,000 acres in size. And these are the tracts that, like the Society for Protection of Hampshire Forest, other people like to work with the landowner to get some conservation easements on. Then we have the new Hillsborough County FEMA 100-year floodplains shows up. And then we have wetlands. These aren't all too specific, but we have the National Wetland Inventory wetlands, the hydric A and B wetlands. Basically, the B is a little less permeable soil than the A. The A is typically more your jurisdictional wetlands, although some jurisdictional wetlands fall in B. Riparian resource areas, these are like the 300-foot shoreland buffer kind of surrounding all your streams. And then lastly, we have the high-quality watersheds. These aren't located in Goffstown too much, because you really find them in the upper
Where
portion
is
of the
Goffstown?
Goffstown shows up here.
If you look, I've kind of been drawing it on
It's a
each of
square
mine.
here, but
And it's sort of, it's like the lower nose part
Right in
of the
here.
watershed.
This is
I'm
all
sorry,
Goffstown right here.
So,
And
okay,
this is Manchester.
okay,
And the river runs through here like
the
this.
river runs through here, and so that maybe, the part that's where the center of Goffstown is like
Right
TA,
down in here, the
it- oh,
village
it's-
center.
right, okay.
And it shows up on these smaller
Show
maps.
us. Yeah, I think that
So-
everybody needs
so
to
we
be
need
shown,
to-
because I don't think
Look at-
anybody
like-
knows.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to transpose and say like this is Goffstown. So I've been kind of making like a little,
One over there.
like a little angle.
Or is
So
it on
see
the
how
big
you
one,
can kind of
like
cut it.
agenda, or-
We're like this part.
Yeah.
Goffstown's kind of like right here.
Lower Piscataqua River.
Right.
You're right here.
Are we all in the lower part of the river?
Yeah,
Yes.
you are.
And
So
then,
see how it's kind of like that outlying nose part to it. I was kind of drawing the angle
but
myself.
he's saying that the center of Goffstown
Is
is kind of just above the CATA, kind
right
of
above
that
the
area. So we have some idea.
Right.
Thank you very much. Now I,
be right here.
CATA is where the town is?
kind of right, a little bit above
Right
that
here.
area. And Manchester is this part that projects down here.
Down here.
Okay, so
So-
now we know.
So when you look, like, here's on the floodplains map, it's a little easier, like, that's the Piscataqua. The blue and white, the floodplains, you can see that that's like the lower Piscataqua.
Now, one thing that you can use as a guide, and I don't recommend you do it, but you can look at it. This is how we score the resource values. This is our score. So you can kind of get a comparison how we.
No, I took yours because I didn't have one, so go to.
This
Oh, okay.
I did.
All right.
We put
I
our
heard
highest
you say
score
that.
on the,
Sorry.
riparian resources.
I have it in here.
And we're kind of ranking these with the idea of conservation. So what are important versus what's less important and then less important? Okay. And it has to add up to 100, that's the tricky part.
Yeah, it has that. But I mean, what we can do is.
Do you need one?
We could,
No, he's not asking questions.
Go ahead.
we could go around the, just get everybody's score, and then do a weighted average, or you could just ask, you could throw out a number and then see how other people feel about it. That plays a little,
How do we want to do this? Does everybody want to do it individually, or do we want to do it as kind of a group?
Just throw out a
Alright.
number.
Let's do this group.
Debate.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, David, did you have a question?
Just
What we're doing?
in case it helps with the actual doing of the ranking, I just wanted to have a better understanding of what we actually do with the end product.
The end product is,
You missed that.
yeah, we take all the 11 towns' conservation commission scores, plus the scores we get from the resource agencies, and then we do an overall weighted average. And we plug those numbers into their GIS.
Right.
And so
I
then it
guess-
gives an idea of what are conservation highlights based on what are higher values, obviously, be conservation priorities.
Yes.
And then kind of like falling out from there.
I guess, I understand what the co-occurrence model is and all that, but my question is more based on what is the value of the co-occurrence model? Because I've been with PWA and PLC for some time, and, we had one of these prepared years ago by the Forest Society, and it made for a nice chart, but I've never actually seen it used for anything.
Well,
And when we evaluate projects for the town, okay?
The first answer to your question is that this has more up-to-date information than the one that was done in 2005.
Understood.
It includes the most up-to-date floodplains, it includes high-quality waters, it includes the ecologically important habitats, the wildlife action plan habitat areas, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So the data is more up-to-date and more comprehensive than what's ever been looked at before in the watershed. That's the first answer to your question. The second answer to your question is, when the model's run and the map is done, the product will then go to a public workshop, which we're gonna schedule in New Boston. Invite all the towns to come to the workshop and then comment on the results from the model.
Mhm.
And we'll get everybody's input as to what they feel, is most important for protection and what isn't.
I'm just trying to see if there's some other use that I just haven't seen for the model yet, because, when we do projects, it's largely an opportunistic thing. It's when you have willing landowners who want to do conservation. We pretty much know what the important areas are, but then when it comes time to actually putting a project together, you try to find some way to fund that project, and generally the funding is going to come out of one of the specific pieces that goes into the model. So if you can get funding that's designated for wetlands, that's one source, or protecting farmland, soils, and so on. The individual pieces are absolutely critical, and the individual maps are critical, but I've never really found the model itself, everything put together, to be useful.
Come
And
to our
some,
workshop and you'll be surprised
well,
what we will able to reveal and talk about and synthesize and come up with recommendations.
but your workshops tend to be on weekdays.
It's going to be, I think we came up with a couple tentative dates. I mean, you can give us your ideas as what would be a good date for you. Goss?
I know most of the time they're weekdays, and, we
That's
have
too hard for
day
you.
jobs. Well, my employer doesn't pay me to
Well,
do that.
this
It
is gonna be
pays
in
me
the
to
evening.
work for them.
This will be a workshop in the evening. We're looking at holding it at the New Boston School. We've already got the school to hold the workshop. So I think that's gonna be where you can come in and provide your expertise and opportunities. So, do you wanna go back and throw out some numbers, get this ball rolling?
Kim and I were kind of throwing out
We
numbers.
can,
Go ahead.
let me just make another comment, Jack,
Okay.
if I can. Working at DES and being intimately involved with these sorts of issues, I see a lot of things on here that are a really hot topic in the state of New Hampshire these days, and that is the ones that deal with what are so-called indirect impacts to wetlands. When we talk about the Wildlife Action Plan and unfragmented blocks and riparian buffers, these are all things that come up in the discussion relative to indirect impacts. And so I'm just a little uneasy as to, where this whole thing's going and what effect that is gonna have. Is that gonna drive forward the whole indirect impact argument? And whether or not, as you probably know, there's a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, the Greenland decision, that dealt with indirect impacts. And the Supreme Court determined and ruled that The state could only look at direct impacts and not indirect impacts, so a lot of these issues speak to the indirect impact argument.
Well, I think the answer to the question is very plainly is there's no jurisdictional regulations.
Okay, that's not a.
This is all planning
Okay.
based. Okay. What towns do with it and what the state does with it is another story. Maybe it might lead into, some regulations in the future, but it's not in regulations at all. It's just information. And it's to come up with, kind of a consensus from everybody, all the towns in the watershed, what they feel is important.
Mhm.
That's really, they draw the line. Now, it is important, also, I would say, as you review wetlands permits, other projects, you can look at it as background.
Mm.
Always refer to it, but, you can't use it as a regulation.
How about, this is an idea to do this quickly. There's 18 attributes. Why doesn't everyone go through to get a rough idea? Give each of these a score from 1 to 20. And then we could kind of compare numbers, and then we can kind of tweak the numbers. How does that sound? If everybody takes a minute and scores them from 1 to 20? Which might not work as easily, since some of them might be equal in value, less or more.
I think, there's some expertise in this room.
Yeah.
And some of these, I mean, I've never done anything like this before, so I'm looking to find some expertise from
I guess I'd
somebody
like to hear what.
else that, right.
To get us
so-
started.
So we can get us started anyway. I mean, I have no idea where to play, I mean,
Well, I was kind of running over numbers, like, I agreed that riparian resource areas are high in value. Tier 1 wildlife, Tier 1 and Tier 2, I gave high values. I just kind of scored it on my own. I don't know. I mean,
Well, why don't you throw out your numbers and get people to comment, see if they agree or not.
did you get it up to 100? Did you get, Kim and I are trying to get him to 100, it's hard.
That's what I was saying, when you said 1 to
Right.
20, I mean, 20 right up there.
Well, I was kind of like transposing the numbers, but it's kind of tweaking.
Yeah, our highest score was a 10.
Right.
I was saying 10. I'm sitting there looking at all these saying, well,
But you-
10, 10, 10, let's see, that gets up to 100.
But you-
I know,
Yeah, you-
right,
10,
right.
10, 10, and.
Right.
I think a 300-foot buffer for riparian is
10.
0.
Why?
Because that basically, I mean, I've got a farm, I can't do anything.
Well, but we're looking at, in terms of protection, like what would be priority for conservation? Wouldn't we
I'm
want those
looking at it-
areas to be protected?
I'm looking at it for protection for me, because, I mean, the feds did the fencing thing, and you had to be so far back and all of that, and the restrictions layered on were just ridiculous. I mean, to me, that was a taking.
Okay, this is not a regulation. This
No,
is-
but it will lead to regulation, that's what Collis was saying.
Maybe, it's up to you, I mean,
I think it's much more important to,
I think what-
protect the aquifers, especially from development, because I had to put in a brand-new well because people do their sprinklers. When it's pouring rain, their sprinklers are on. And that well lasted for over 20 years. It had, there was a 30-head milking cows when we bought the farm. Never had a problem with that well until 5 houses went in up the road from us, tapped into the aquifer, put in the sprinklers, and I had to get I had a dug well.
Artesian.
I had to get an artesian well.
okay.
I mean, that to me is much more important, is to protect the aquifers.
Okay.
And the state doesn't even follow up. You're supposed to list your wells and everything. The state doesn't even follow up on that.
Kim, why don't you take a straw vote, like, on this motion?
No.
Take this as a motion and say, okay, how does people agree with that recommendation?
I think we'll be here all night if we
Okay, if you did that,
do
okay.
that.
Okay.
Um,
I was just trying to
this is
so-
perhaps we need some time to review these? I don't know. What are
Yeah,
you doing
because,
over there, Colin?
because I hear what you're saying, you mentioned tier 1, tier 2,
For the
wildlife habitat, but I'm looking at this differently. I'm looking at the map, and I'm looking at the wildlife action plan. Tier 1 and tier 2 are maroon and green. I don't see any in Goffstown.
We don't
So why should I give that any rating at
Right.
all?
Right, exactly.
Right.
You know, that's the way I'm approaching this.
Yep,
See,
that's
that's
the way
what's-
to approach it.
You know,
There's nothing.
high quality watersheds? None.
I guess what I'm feeling though is maybe, again, that this is a little bit, we're running, that there are a number of us that don't really understand this, and if we're going to have some educated input, I'd rather have it at another time that we can sit down and,
Jack, what kind of time frame are you working on?
When's your next meeting?
A month from now. We meet the
Oh, you meet every month.
fourth Wednesday of every month.
So it would be.
Because I'd like to be able to bring this home, and I'm sorry I didn't do the homework ahead of time, but
Digest it.
digest it.
yeah, and can't we maybe, we've had, you know, little workshops. I mean, if we feel this is important enough to do, I think we could have a little workshop
can
where
do that.
there's a little bit of a discussion as to what we're really looking at, and then, I mean, we've done this when we were first looking at the prime wetlands, and we sat there and looked at each area, and we actually divided the town up into, 6 sections, and looked at each area, and I just feel like I don't have any, I don't know what I'm
So the
talking.
consensus is we don't feel like we're prepared to wrestle over this tonight.
Right.
Okay.
And you wanna, could you do a special meeting and wrap it up?
Yeah, we can.
It's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, I think a little workshop meeting.
Doesn't have to be long. If we're all doing this, it would take an hour, we'd be done.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll
Yeah.
be willing to come
You
back.
know,
and
do it at the
help
town hall, call it a
facilitate
day.
that meeting.
Yeah, as long as everybody does their homework and
Yep.
comes back,
With numbers, hour, we're home.
and some thought process.
Yep.
to This thing,
If you could, do you think we could do it within 2 weeks?
I think we have a really busy month ahead of us
we do.
with town meetings next week,
well.
and then everything between the town meetings and the vote in March. Just personally, my February is looking a little busy, but if you guys think that we could get together one night and knock it out in an hour, then that would be all right. It's a consensus.
Well, I'd like to.
Third February Wednesday
Deliberate.
meeting. I don't have anything to tell you what you guys got.
I'll decline that offer, thank you. Too busy working on actual conservation
Or you
projects.
could dedicate your meeting to more time with us.
No, we don't need
Right.
studying.
I mean,
Come
this,
on.
Right?
this is your next,
We could just come back at your next regular meeting,
That we could do, and just put more time in for it.
since you have so many other things.
Well, it's up to the group.
Yeah, this is a busy time of year, you're
I
right.
mean, it's up to you
that or
guys.
the
Well,
February.
but will we come back here
Many
next month
issues are
and
One,
By the end of
two,
February, we'll
three,
be through, we'll be
four,
through the
five,
budgetary,
six,
town
7,
meeting,
8,
our
9.
issues.
Voting, so.
right,
9,
so-
if everything got 10, that would only be 90.
No,
If-
there's actually,
if these are
they
the-
sub-scored some of them, so
No, she's sub-scored though, she's saying there's a total of
there's
18,
18 parameters, yeah.
so we'll divide it in half.
All right, so that's a suggestion is, let's all take this home, study it, think about it. And then next month's meeting, we'll devote the first half hour towards it and we'll wrestle it all out.
Be done with
So I
it.
guess the feeling is we don't have enough understanding.
February 24th.
February 24th.
Okay.
And we'll put it on first on the agenda so Jack can get out of here.
Yep. Sure.
So that'll be
So-
at 7 o'clock.
I would like to counter, I see it differently though, Kyle brings up the point that
It's not there.
some of these are scored differently because they're not in Goffstown. So I guess as far as this, I mean, Goffstown scoring criteria, if it's not in our town, it's not as high. But I was kind of looking at the overall project. So I guess that's sort of a different way of thinking than I had thought. So I guess maybe think about that, like, that this is our town score.
I think it should be our
For-
town score, if
But
we're gonna
just for planning
utilize-
purposes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
No, it's just
Now-
for
now I will
PLC,
say-
isn't it?
Just to help,
Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
just to help along that same mindset a little bit, when I was with the Manchester Conservation Commission, they had very little of these resources.
Right.
So for their mindset, they said, well, you know, if we go outside of Manchester, we go to New Boston or Francistown, what do we like to see protected in those communities that would benefit us? So you could look at it. from
That way too.
But I would say, yes, focus on what is mainly primarily important to
Okay.
the town of Goffstown.
Okay.
Now, does everybody have copies?
No, I would appreciate
Here,
it.
you
when
can
they-
take, I actually have this on my computer, so you can take this
Okay.
copy.
Well, I'll
I'll
leave
keep my
you
numbers.
with everything and then you can contribute some of this afterwards.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
leave with me, 'cause then I can mail it to them too.
Did you get one from
Because
your
they don't have like the big overall.
All right, so everyone has homework.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Well,
Okay,
it's really
yep.
interesting when
The
you do
other
what is mandated.
So we're supposed to focus on Goffstown.
All right, thanks so much.
David,
And
how important those resources, each one is compared to each other for our town, with the idea of being a conservation-based concept. So, and you're right, I'm a little more familiar with this kind of modeling and things than maybe you, so if we wanna come like at 6:45, if you have confusion about what this really means, I can maybe explain it a little better, because I kind of understand the idea. I think David understands the idea, and Kyle's probably understanding the idea, but, so, anyway. So I'll just throw that out there, we can kind of, if we need to talk more about it too, so.
Thanks so much.
So,
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Kim, without belaboring the point, I can relate this to, I'm on a task force that's looking at revising the New Hampshire method.
Yes,
And you recall, the New Hampshire method was, for comparative analysis of wetlands, was never intended to be used to evaluate specific wetlands, yet it has evolved into that.
Right.
And it's being used that way today, and it was never intended for that to be the case. And that's my fear here, that it starts out as a planning tool, and before you know it, people have got it in their ordinances. We see New Hampshire methodology referenced in town ordinances, it's like, holy smokes.
but on the other hand, this is something that they're doing, and this is our opportunity
understand.
to give our input.
I'm just voicing my concern, why I'm a little reluctant, with the process, but
And I want to be very clear on one other point, and that is that, first of all, the creation of the plan is a great thing, and the work being done, and every one of these individual maps is an invaluable resource.
absolutely.
Right.
Any one of these maps could lead to a conservation project or make a real impact.
Right.
It's just the actual co-occurrence model itself that I look at it and, I mean, and looking back on, thinking as an ecologist and, the years I did that, and I'm like, but, yeah, you get the map because that's what you rank, so what? What's the value of that? What is the point of it?
Well, and your point was valid, that, I mean, if you've got a parcel, whether it's ranked 1 or 5 or 10, if it's being offered and its potential, that places it higher in the order. But sometimes, I feel like these things do have some type of value, and, I mean, they came to us, so I feel like this is our chance to
And again,
provide our
I think
input.
they have value, I agree with David, I just wanna make sure they're used properly.
Right.
And also, when you're looking at it, for some of these, you have to take into consideration the data coverage. So in some cases, the data coverage is excellent. For something like the Wildlife Action Plan, I mean, look at the map and see how much of it is, the majority of it is habitat not ranked, so.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
are you really, when you're analyzing that and putting a heavy emphasis on that, does it really mean anything when over half the area is not even ranked? So you're giving a higher value to something that has a higher value only because somebody went out and looked. I mean, so
Yeah.
there's some, when you're doing the ranking, that's maybe is something to think about, that, well, okay, I like the idea of the Wildlife Action Plan, but if the data's incomplete, is it really that important?
Right.
Anyway, I won't belabor it anymore.
Okay, so we'll move to the discussion with Boschman for map 8, lot 4616, Meadowlark Lane. Condition will review the reclamation plan for construction of the house. Oh, we talked about this. Come forward.
They've got the plan now, ZBA referred them back to us to make sure it's what we want. And so Maria Dolder's here to explain.
Thank you.
Maria Dolder, I'm the attorney for Boschman's. And I'll just step back 1 minute and give you a little bit of background, just so that everybody knows what's happening and why we're here.
This is this map you guys should all have.
Yes,
This one, Meadowlark.
And just to orient you, the top map is what we submitted at the ZBA level. The second map is the map that we're actually here to discuss with you tonight. So as you may all recall, we were before this board on June 3rd, 2009, in connection with a variance request before the ZBA. The variance request involved the relatively new surface water buffers. At its meeting on July 7th, 2009, the ZBA did grant the applicant relief. It did two things. It approves the construction of a single-family home with attached garage and deck within 50 feet of the surface water, which is Harry Brook. That's not technically what brings us here tonight. The second portion of their relief is what brings me before you. The ZBA also approved a variance for reclamation and maintenance of the area that is up to 20 feet from the surface water. In granting the relief, the ZBA required that we submit a reclamation and maintenance plan to this board for review. And I just want to quickly point out to you on the plan, the area that we're talking about. This line right here is our 50-foot buffer. So this is the 50 feet from Gary Brook. This line here is our 20-foot buffer. So what we're talking about tonight is this area in here.
And what?
Well,
This is a mystery.
the zoning board felt that, the relief was justified, that obviously we could get in there, we could reclaim it, we could maintain it. They just wanted to know that we had a plan in place that would obviously show that we're gonna do this properly. That, they did mention during the zoning board meeting that Derek Horn would be responsible for checking on it, making sure that it was all done properly. And they thought that this board was the best board to just review our plan, like I said, make sure we have the safeguards in place, make sure that it's, being done properly. So they asked us to take a plan to you for review. And quite frankly, you can see on the plan, it's very basic. I'm gonna walk through, the basic premise of this with you. But the gist of it is, up to the 20-foot buffer area, this property was previously disturbed, as you may recall. That was done prior to the enactment of the surface water buffers. So in general terms, the applicant intends to clean the area and then maintain it. On the plan, we do have detailed steps that are gonna be taken, and I'll just take a minute to walk through those with you. Basically, before construction or, doing any kind of maintenance, they're gonna obviously identify the limits of construction between the area and the surface waters. Obviously, the vegetation from the 20-foot buffer down to Harry Brook needs to remain intact. They'll have measures in place to prevent construction equipment from entering the buffers, except for obviously what is allowed by the variance. They will be placing straw bales and or silt fences, whatever is determined to be needed out there along the downslope side of the construction area, so that there won't be any sediment migration towards the surface water. And then during construction and or maintenance, reclamation, they'll maintain those straw bales and the silt fencing to prevent sediment migration. Any excess soil will obviously be stockpiled on the upslope, so that, and those piles will be stabilized. Any excess sediment migration will be stabilized with appropriate measures. And then once they get in there and they reclaim it, because you may recall, if you go to the site, there were lots of areas that were dug out, there were some deep ditches or holes on the property, there were piles of rock, so they're obviously gonna go in and clean all that out. Once that's all cleaned out and the disturbance is, reclaimed again, they're gonna put topsoil, minimum depth of 4 inches over the area that was disturbed. Grass seed will be applied over the topsoil, raked and then rolled. A layer of strong mulch will be applied to the newly seeded areas to assist in the germination and obviously provide erosion control. After that's complete and the site's been stabilized, once again, from the 20-foot mark to Harry Brook, that will be maintained as a naturally vegetative area where the variance does not allow us to go into that area. But the 20-foot to 50-foot area will be maintained and moved as necessary. And then we also have on there that no pesticides shall be used within 25 feet of the surface waters. The only other encroachment into this area is there is the existing driveway. It encroaches a small portion into that, not this road, as you may recall, was already there and it's being used as the driveway, this small portion here, so that'll be maintained as the driveway. All erosion control practices will be constructed and maintained according to minimum standards and to state specifications. And that's it. We just wanted to obviously come before this board, hopefully get your approval on this plan, although the ZBA wasn't clear exactly what we needed, but we certainly wanted you to review it and know that we have the safeguards in place and we're gonna follow through with that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I think it's great, obviously, to go in and restore those areas between the 20-foot and the 50-foot.
Yep.
Why are we not, why are we consider just loam and seed and having it allowed to be mowed? Why aren't we putting in trees and shrubs and allowing the vegetated buffer to reestablish
The ZBA
itself?
didn't require us to do that. They specifically gave us a variance.
But
to-
you're here to get our comments on the plan, is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
But we have the approval, and the zoning board made it clear that we were allowed to only seed, we were allowed to mow it, we were allowed to reclaim it and maintain it as, you know, under those circumstances.
So,
We had those discussions,
so
quite
why
frankly.
are you here asking for our comments
a
if
mystery,
they're,
yeah.
if they're useless?
maybe you can shed some light, I know that those, I mean, we had specific discussions about those issues, about the fact that we wanted to just seed it, have grass there, it's the backyard. The ZBA was comfortable with that. Once again, they just wanted to make sure we had the safeguards in place and we had a plan in place, that we would be following.
I don't understand. I guess maybe we need to send a note to Derek, because
Send a note to ZBA.
a relaxation of the outer 50-foot was what we discussed, because it is disturbed. I'm sure all of you remember from the site walk, oh, no, that was just me that got eaten up by all the mosquitoes. Nobody else showed up. But it's the right plan. Well, the location of the house, the outer 50-foot needed to be waived because, and the road is the only place where it can go, and it is a really disturbed site. So I agreed with that, and that was fine. But I think, I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what ZBA was doing, saying that you needed to be in that buffer at all. I mean, it is kind of disturbed, but it could have just be left.
I have copies of their minutes if you would like to read them. We had extensive deliberations. I, quite frankly, with no disrespect to this board, said to the ZBA, you know, why is the Conservation Commission going to want to approve this plan for us when they didn't want us to do this? And the ZBA said, well, because we're deciding that you can, and so,
But you must have asked, right?
what do you mean? Oh, yeah, remember, if you may recall, we actually went to the ZBA for a variance up to 20 feet to allow accessory structures.
And I'm sure in our notes, we said we didn't want up to 20 feet.
Right.
We said outside 50
Oh,
foot.
yeah, and we discussed that, and the ZBA, with all due respect, said they understood your comments, but they were gonna allow us not the accessory structures. They did not give us
Right.
that. But they were gonna allow us to basically have a backyard and reclaim it, maintain it, and mow it.
Well, there's plenty of room on this property to have a backyard without going into the 50-foot buffer, to be
And
quite
I
honest
agree.
with you.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's silly.
I guess the only thing I'd have to say.
Okay,
Why did they approve it?
Yeah, I mean, the zoning board has already approved it.
Let's
It's-
treat this as a gravel pit.
all right.
Let's take pictures of the pre as it exists now before any work is done, and then a post. After all the work is done, let them tell us what has happened, whether the buffer is in there. I don't know where their time schedule is, whether that's gonna be taken care of before the house or after the house, but that we should have pictures of pre and post. If the reclamation is done before the house, then we want it when the reclamation is done, and then when the house is built, and it should be on file. And then we can tell whether it's been maintained or not, and whether the buffer has been encroached upon, or whatever. Let's treat it like a gravel pit.
Well, I feel like we should send a note to Derek saying we wouldn't have approved a reclamation plan of
But that's a
this
gravel pit.
out there, and that I don't think it, I mean, it is a mess. You're right, it is almost as bad as a gravel pit. It's just boulders and it's just kind of a mess, but you're
But we-
really mucking around with a system that's already mucked with, so
Yeah,
Collis, what do you think about this?
if-
This is
but-
weird.
If that's what the ZBA has done, let's put our level on it. I mean,
Well,
they've
yeah.
already given the permission. So let's hold their feet to the fire and say, this is what has to happen, because
Well, but they're asking us to comment on this plan, and I think our comment should be, or could be, well, we wouldn't have agreed that this should happen. I mean, we have
well,
our
we
right to
can
say
always
that. They
do
asked us to
that, but
comment
I
on it.
mean,
Well, I mean, once again, with all due respect, we had that discussion, I had that exact, thought. And, you know, in the minutes, I said, you know, Maria Dolder asked what happened.
We
and
had
they
this
said they
attached
won't
to your
approve anything anything,
Wanna be
given that the
satisfied.
Conservation Commission didn't want us to go that close to the brook. And Joanne Duffy said, we're granting the variance for
We have to be
reclamation work,
satisfied.
and as
Yeah,
they
that's what
review and approve the plans, and then I went on to say, well, they made it clear they didn't want us to disturb the ground past the 50-foot mark. And she basically, the chairperson said they would do this because the variance is allowing us to.
Kim,
I think what
read
we're
that.
saying is
And
that,
I have copies of the minutes for everybody if you wanna
Just to
take
the
a look.
satisfaction
To
of
our
the
satis-
Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
So we're
Oh.
not satisfied.
We're not
So, right,
satisfied.
right.
reclamation would not be
Is that the decision?
It's
suitable.
Yeah, it was
the
attached,
decision
everything that was mailed
says-
to you. Derek's comment, the notice of decision was attached, it's to the satisfaction.
Yeah,
of the
sorry. So
Conservation
it says, subject to the submission of a reclamation and maintenance plan to the satisfaction of the Concom. So,
Sure.
So they
But we
want
had
it
discussions
done,
about what it was going to be, so it's not gonna be a whole new, we don't want you to do this. We have
Well-
a variance to do
okay,
it.
but, so we basically can tweak this plan.
yeah,
I think-
it's for, to your satisfaction.
To our satisfaction.
Right, 4 inches of soil
It's
is not gonna do it at all.
Well, that's actually standard. I mean,
Over-
4 to 6
Six,
inches.
well, it's even 6, and what about, oh,
Let it
no,
grow.
that's not gonna.
I'm sorry,
No,
Susan,
that-
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's grass, you can put in like a no-mow grass, and it's a grass that grows to a certain height, which also holds the soil, but it never has to be mowed, so it doesn't have to be treated with chemicals, doesn't have to be lime, doesn't have to be, you don't have.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Chemical.
Mowing should be out of this
So-
completely.
Right,
yeah.
I was looking at the mowing, because when she
Right.
said grass seed and mowing, and no, there's no way that we can prevent people from putting pesticides on a lawn.
Right.
We cannot supervise that, and that is gonna be within 20 feet, it's gonna be in the river.
Oh, yeah.
But if we could say, we've got a buffer, natural buffer, and then you put maybe like a no-mow grass, if you want grass, but it's never mowed, it's or, as Carl says,
Grow.
vegetation.
It's,
that
but it's
goes
going to
in.
be mowed because they want a backyard. Look where the house is.
But look at all the rest of that giant parcel that they have for backyard. David?
That's
Yeah,
your
that's,
side
Sorry, go
yard.
ahead.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna echo the comment that Collis made, that, which is, they got plenty of room there for a backyard. Granted, it's an odd-shaped lot, but it's an odd-shaped lot to begin with. Comment I would like to see go back to ZBA is, well, we don't agree that relaxing the 50 feet is appropriate, and we don't really believe that it's necessary. You know, that going back to a more natural vegetated state would be more appropriate within the 50 feet.
Well, I actually feel like we could kind of walk the difference. It's not actually going to revegetate itself. It is really messy. There are a lot of boulders out there, and what they're suggesting might be really good for the wildlife habitat without mowing, if it is kind of left as a grassy, not viewed as the rest of their lawn. If this is truly a restoration plan of a disturbed riparian buffer.
Except for the only thing that I will say is we've clearly asked the ZBA for maintenance of this area to mow it. It's once again reflected in the minutes, where Joe Boschman asked
Where
that
they're
the
gonna
materials
play.
be included. Joe
gonna come
Duffy
back here.
said the zoning ordinance, section 13.36 allows agriculture and forestry uses. She assumes they could mow it. Joe Boschman said they, meaning this Conservation Commission, made it clear that they don't want anything within the 50-foot buffer. Joanne Duffy said they have to go by what is here. She read the ordinance, and so they clearly said we could mow it.
That's why I say, let's treat it as a gravel pit
No, I
with the
think
pre
it's
and post, and then with GPS and everything, you can monitor it. Because otherwise, it's going to go the way of so many people's backyards and get filled and filled and filled.
Well, I agree with that, but I also think that that's like a step further down the path that we're trying to.
Right, I would agree with you. I don't think that the applicant would have any problem with obviously showing pre and post. I think, however, the ZBA for us to go forward will want something, otherwise we'll just have to go back to the ZBA and tell them that, the Conservation Commission does not agree with their variance and we can't get a consensus on a plan.
I mean, we can't blame the applicant for being stuck in between us and ZBA, so I'm not really sure procedurally how we need to go forward with this, because initially our response to ZBA would be, well, we don't think that they should be mucking around in the buffer, but if they've approved it with our satisfaction, what would satisfy us, I think, from what I'm hearing from everyone, is at least no mowing. And then if you and ZBA wanna squabble over that, I guess that would be something else that they'd have to, I don't know. I mean, Collis
mean,
is suggesting
the thing-
trees, I mean, you've got an opportunity to do a really great project here, but trees are expensive, and
But you know what
then
else?
you don't get the view of the brook, and,
Single family
Wait a minute,
house.
what else doesn't make any sense here is to say, it says you have to reclaim the land 20 foot back from the brook. Yet I don't see any of the reclamation areas that are within 20 feet of the brook. So what's to reclaim? I mean, it's nonsensical to me. I don't understand it. I see,
Well, if you actually went out to the property, you'd see, I know Kimberly can tell you, it's a mess out there. I
There-
mean, and it
Well,
really is a
but,
mess.
well, wait a minute, I see a 20-foot buffer setback line, and
Yep.
I see an existing tree line.
Right,
And-
so,
And then,
right, the existing tree line is, we're not touching that, that's the 20
right,
feet that
so
we're
what's
not
to
touching.
reclaim in there?
Nothing in that area, it's the 20 feet to the 50 feet.
right, they're reclaiming the outer 30 feet.
30 feet.
It's not the
This.
20 feet to the, this
Right.
will remain a vegetated buffer. This is all gonna remain.
I
So
understand.
that tree line, it's from here. This has
understand.
all been previously disturbed.
I understand
It's,
that.
So it's that area.
I'm still confused, because it says, approve a reclamation of land 20 feet from the brook. There's no disturbance occurring within 20 feet of the brook. What's to be reclaimed?
Yeah, what in essence it is, it's the 20 to 50. It's that area in between the 20 feet.
It's the hash marks.
So the notes are written a little
Right.
quirky.
Incorrect.
Yes.
Well, quite frankly, that was taken directly from the variance. But if you look at their minutes, it's clear that we were supposed to be, it's the 20 to the 50. It's certainly not within the 20. And we didn't ask for that.
Well, what am I going to do here?
I think what maybe some of us are alluding to is, it's not the issue, the reclamation isn't the issue. The issue is that if it's turned into a suburban-type typical lawn, despite best intentions of what's stated, it's gonna be fertilized, it's gonna be treated, it's all gonna end up in the stream. So if it was a more natural, less maintained buffer,
Right.
the odds would be somewhat improved.
Harry Brook's wonderful.
Yeah, talk about
Yeah.
a backyard that everybody ought to like to have.
Yeah. I mean, Harry Brook is really pristine. It's a wonderful.
Actually, if you read this after construction, it says no pesticides shall be used within 25 feet of surface water, so they're just barely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if we, procedurally, if we want to make comments to the plan that's in front of us, which is what ZBA is trying to get us to do, that would be two major, number one would be no pesticides within the 50-foot buffer. Number two would be no mowing within the 50-foot buffer. And use of seeds or a grassy seed mix or a wetland upland seed mix that is appropriate for a low-maintenance area, riparian buffer area, which they're certainly out there. Any landscaper or wetland consulting firm can do that for you. I think the addition of shrubs and trees would definitely benefit this area. I mean, if it's just grass and loam,
If it's grass and loam as a lawn, it's going to be
It's
sprayed,
right.
it's
Yeah.
going to be treated, no matter what it
Right.
says in here.
And it's
That's-
gonna be in the water.
This goes in the file cabinet and, yeah.
well, but they're asking us for comments, so
Right,
we
so
can't
that-
blow
that
it
could
off.
be- No, that would be our comment,
We're
though.
not blowing it
We're
off. I
telling
think
them
we're
to be
saying that
50
we
feet.
don't agree that the 25-foot buffer necessarily makes sense.
Well, I think Kimberly's comments were good.
What else? I mean, do we feel like we need to go back to ZBA and remind them that we wouldn't have wanted this touched anyway? I think as long as we're replying to their
Well,
comment,
that
Me,
we're
they
asked to
want-
comment, it's fair for us to make that comment.
yeah,
They want to the satisfaction, so you say what you would like done
What I
to your
think.
satisfaction.
yes.
But-
And let's remind them that to our satisfaction would have been staying out of the 50-foot buffer completely. I do believe that should be a part of making the comment, because maybe Joanne was confused about our notes, even though they were pretty clear.
Well,
She was not confused. I reiterated it she understood.
Well.
And
But-
just take this to heart. I mean, they did not take it lightly, that you did not want that. I mean, we discussed it at great length. They just disagreed.
Well, the mystery is if we say we don't want them to do it and the client is saying we don't want them to do it, why is ZBA saying they want them to do it? That's the mystery I'm pondering.
Well, they felt that we met all the requirements of the variance, which quite frankly, we did.
I'm still
Well,
dumbfounded. I
variance
don't
is,
understand. I-
Well, I'll be honest with you, I was in the same predicament, and like I said, I read you the minutes, I asked the question, I said to the ZBA, how is the Conservation Commission going to be able to do this when they don't want it?
And where in the language is it that they're allowed, I mean, I understand the variance of the outer 50-foot. I don't understand where in our ordinances the variance is allowing them to come in and
Quite
work
frankly,
within the 50-foot.
if we were only to the 50 feet, we didn't need a variance. We would have been to the planning board. The planning board has the authority under the ordinance to waive your first 50 feet.
Right.
So we didn't need the zoning board for that. We only needed a variance to get it within the 50 feet.
Ah, and we have a procedure to allow you to do that.
Yeah, you can ask
Well,
for a
yay.
variance to anything in your zoning.
Oh, sure you can, and you could get it too. Okay, well,
I think
But-
that's all we can do is give our comments,
and that's
Right.
it, yeah.
and that's
Okay,
it. And
but
that would be-
I still
see what
want to
happens
say,
and
I'm
follow
still,
through with your-
I'm sorry.
No, I was
I'm
just, I
speaking
just
out of
wanted to say,
turn.
if we ask for grass, I think we should ask for shrubs and trees too. I mean, this is our only chance to
sure.
get something into that buffer, and if we don't
Sure.
have shrubs and trees, you're gonna have it mowed.
Right, I think, and it would be very
Fertilize.
appropriate to
No
have that, with the trees right, with the tree line right there. It would be great to have, and look good for the homeowner too, to have the shrubs and trees, I'm sure.
So
What they're
be
trying to get is the
specific
view
So I
to-
can pass on, so no structures within the 50 feet, no mowing within the 50 feet, and you want a grassy seed mix with shrubs and trees.
Sure, we'd like to see the plan beefed up.
That's what you want,
The
And what
grassy-
do we say, and no pesticides within the 50 feet?
and no pesticide.
Did you want
Or fertilizer.
that grassy seed mix, did you want it the no-mow
No-mow.
kind,
Alice, what were you gonna add to
No mow
Yeah,
kind?
Or a low
I'm
maintenance?
still
Low
dumbfounded,
Low
okay, and maybe
maintenance.
the plan doesn't accurately depict site conditions. I
It
haven't
really
been to
is
the site.
nasty, and
Wait
I
a
walked
minute,
it.
Wait a minute, so then the existing tree line is inaccurate?
No, the existing tree line is quite accurate, and actually,
so
look at
the-
the
wait a
steep
minute.
part, when you go down, like,
Let me,
it's steep.
so the area from Harry Brook 20 feet back is existing tree line,
Yes.
and there's no disturbances in there.
No, and it's beautiful.
But this says, and I'm just reading the decision says, approve reclamation of land 20 feet from the brook. In other words, reclaim the land from the brook 20 feet back. It doesn't need to be reclaimed.
Right.
Nothing's happened there.
Yes, we need to clarify
So the
that
submission
language.
Of a reclamation and maintenance plan is satisfaction
It's
of
not 20
conservation.
feet from
The
the brook.
client,
Could be a
the
typo, we did
applicant and us are of the understanding that the reclamation plan is only between 20 and 50.
Absolutely.
Between the stream and the 20-foot should not be touched.
No, and
And that's what shows on the plan, right.
and quite frankly,
Stream.
that's what we asked for.
So Collis is noticing that it's written very poorly, however, if
Doesn't
that's,
make any
20
sense.
feet.
I think our comment should include
Between
that observation, though, 'cause
Right.
that's, you know, we say, yeah, we all get it now here, but then later on.
because that is legally, they could come back and say, well, you said we could do this in the 20
The
feet.
only thing I'd like to say is, I mean, A, our application was not for that, and B, if you do read the minutes, it's very clear, we were talking the 20 to 50 feet.
Right.
There's no discussion whatsoever that we were closer than 20
Okay.
feet to the brook.
Yeah, so we should definitely make a note to that should be definitely clarified, but, I mean, it is between the 20 and 50 feet, it's, you know, bouldered and rocky, and I don't know what they did out there, how they got the way it is, but the tree line, you come down the hill and you've got really pretty, New Hampshire-looking brook, and then you come up and you've got this messy, bouldery, and it'll look better. It just needs to be better than what we're seeing, so.
And 20 to 50 feet's gonna be mowed. It's gonna be grass and it's gonna be mowed.
Let's hope it won't be mowed. You can squabble that out with the ZBA now.
That's not what the note on the plan says.
Well, that's why we're making comment.
Okay,
And we could comment that that was the plan before us dated, 1/26/10, with revised details, 1/26/10. So. All right, anyone else? It is cold in here.
I still would like the pre and post.
And Karen, yes, that's right, and we feel like there should be, you know, a pre and post recording made of the progress of the reclamation plan.
So a plan or like literal pictures of the site?
Yes.
Well, sure, pictures.
Literal
Yes.
pictures.
those
And
can
the
be
plan.
kept with
I mean, what you
Derek
have to
or
do when
here,
you
where are they
file
gonna be
for
kept?
a gravel permit,
know.
you had to do pre and post, show the loam and everything else, and pictures.
Who's gonna keep those?
Derek.
Derek?
All right, well, that's what I wanna, so then he's supposed to be on top of this.
Maria, did you say you had copies of the minutes?
She does, she's got copies.
Does anybody else want them? I made copies for all of you.
I'm good, thank you.
It'll be exciting reading
It
tonight, I'm
is.
sure.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I only chiseled out our stuff.
Oh,
Does
good.
anybody else want?
I'd like one.
Thank you.
Was that Lindsay Way too that night?
Tomorrow.
I thought it might be helpful just because it was such a lengthy discussion and like I said.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'd like,
Would you like- So then, just from a procedural perspective, this will be sent to the ZBA and I take it we'll have to take it up with the ZBA.
Yeah, I'll
for
send
where
it,
we are.
I'll give it to Derek and just talk to Derek as to the next, what you do
Yeah,
now.
you can just send Derek coordinating.
Maria, one more question. The existing access road that continues out to the back of the property,
Yeah,
is that gonna be restored, or where does this go to, and what's?
that's not being used, so there is no intention to utilize that portion of it. They're gonna use what's pre-existing up into where the house is, obviously, but,
How much farther back off the,
I think it goes quite a bit back, to be honest with you.
Is it
It's a big
suitable
lot
for
too, the lot goes
ATVs?
back.
That I don't know. I know that, at
Sure,
some
there's
point they had
anything
some water issues in the back, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, and we kept the house to the front because crossing Harry Brook was not what we wanted either, so, but it does, like, that lot does extend pretty
Yeah,
far back.
because I believe that road, the old road, used to go and cross the brook, that crossing is no longer viable.
And there was a plan note on this too, that there will be no house put back there.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, this is solely for a single family, we only have approval for one.
there's the rest of it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I know that this was kind of a difficult one. Do you want me to leave the big plans for you?
No, you can take them, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Miss Finance.
Here.
Here. We'll discuss finances.
Okay. I have a statement, and it correlates with the current use here of our present balance of $225,026.45. And it changed only according up to 12/31 by interest paid of $22.72. But I'm wondering, Kim, if you can help me with this, because this also was with my packet. And this is dated of January 21st, 2010,
And we have a negative balance?
and it's a negative balance.
Where'd our money
No,
go?
Yeah, that I found confusing to her when she gave it to me, and she says the revenues always show up as negative on it. I don't know what,
Because here is the
Right.
225, which would make sense.
that's not normally what you see.
And then,
Fund balance unreserved undesignated is the negative 149.
this is the first time I've seen it ever with a negative. That's why I'm just trying to understand that. And the date, this is from the 31st, and then this is now from the,
Because then it would give us a beginning balance or an ending balance of negative $17,000.
And I think it's just from going from one account to another. I think that's what it is, but it's the top one's your balance. Cause she gave me this and I said, I don't get this.
So you
And I went back
same
to
thing
her
as
and
me.
then I made her give me the other one.
Yeah.
Because we're actually due from the general fund $54,000. So is that current use change? That 54,000?
Yeah, due from the general fund. That's what I would say that is. And then the other ones are all different.
Wow.
I can ask Evelyn to explain it, or if you wanna talk to Evelyn, but this isn't what normally she would give me.
Right,
And
and
I looked down,
so-
I said, what's this?
right.
Okay. Because we didn't get a $54,000 deposit into this account.
No, the only deposit we got, and this was before the 31st, was $9,075.
Statement, which we don't see.
And I don't know if these are like I don't know if it's legal expenses on some of this because you're now starting a new year.
No, we haven't, I mean, that's one of the things we vote on tonight is legal expenses for the
Right.
Yeah,
last
but from
easement.
the
and we haven't
previous one,
voted.
it may have showed up from.
Well, we
when-
have expenditures, $31,000 for conservation administrative expenses.
They've got that.
What's that?
Oh, that 31,
31,354.99.
31,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's for what period of time?
It just says
This
expenditures.
was, yeah, this was printed off on 1/21 of this month. And the bank statement that I usually see is only to the 31st of December.
This is the official thing, it's wrong.
We,
Need to go over this in detail, because it doesn't,
yeah.
I mean, because they get the legal,
That's what he.
the legal expenses before you get them to vote on, but there is an explanation that we can talk to Evelyn and she can explain to Kim.
That would be good, because there's your big
Because
negatives.
actually, she gave me this one other time before, and it said, it was show negative amounts on it, but that isn't actually, she says, oh, they always show up that way, and I went, okay. I said, well, give me the bank statement.
Because we have beginning of balance, prior periods, current period balance.
Because that's what it is
And
up
that's
here.
the same thing that we have in the
Right.
bank account. Good. And then we have money due from the general fund, $54,000. And then we have undesignated as negative 149,879. And then
So like you
current
see,
use
the
fees.
interest is showing up is negative 22. I think if you add them together, it equals the 25.
Okay, well, I think the result
Yeah.
is we need to find out.
Yeah.
So hopefully we have 225, what is it, 225s?
We do.
Yep, we have 225 according to 1231.
Okay. And maybe you're right, maybe this is just New Year mumbo jumbo.
I think if you add them
Hocus
together,
pocus.
they'll equal the 225,026. It's just some way it's coming in from whatever they're doing on the
Okay.
computer.
Okay.
Just to see the negatives.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
And as we see from our paperwork here, we do need to, and you're gonna bring that up, there's a,
The legal, the boat.
Wait, so we start a new year?
Yep.
2010 budget is 4,247?
247. We'll go right down, we need for our membership dues for the New Hampshire Association, that would come out of our, which is 525, should come out of our operating fund.
Out of the
four-
424?
Correct, out of the
Okay,
4,247, so
okay.
we would need to vote on that. And then also, which would come out of, I would think out of the current use, is the legal expenses for the Corbett.
for the town attorney
Yes.
reviews. And I'd like to say that that bill is one of the best we've ever had in terms of the amount. In the past, they've
Good.
been much higher, so I
Good.
was actually quite happy.
Is this the same
See.
lawyer?
Huh?
We emailed it to them.
Oh, good.
Ah,
Rates are different.
Well, I'd like to make a motion for both of those, but I
Yep.
can't.
Oh,
right.
I'll make a motion to recommend expenditure of the $696.50 for the legal reimbursement for the Corbett easement and $525 for the New Hampshire Association of Concom.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
And
Kim?
let it be on the minutes, that we make sure that, that it goes into the correct fund.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, putting those both together in the same vote was that the potential.
Current use
That's
fund
what I'm
for
afraid
the
of.
legal, and then.
So, right, make sure that they're split into two separate funds.
Okay. And then David, didn't you have some reimbursement to submit? Wasn't there something, was that the
Oh.
Corbett easement?
No,
No.
I don't have any reimbursement to submit. Oh, I think you're probably referring to the David Pierce map.
Yes.
So
Thank
has
you.
everyone, many of you have probably seen the map that they put up for the Uncanunic trails at the water precinct pull-off. I guess it was EDC maybe, or working with water precinct, they put up a little kiosk, and then a map of the hiking trails in the area of the mountains was made by David Pierce, and that was posted there. So I remarked on, that's a wonderful map, boy, that would really be nice to have it over on the Conservation Commission's kiosk at South Mountain. So they forwarded the PDFs to us. And so that's the question is whether we want to vote to pay for the expense of printing and laminating a map and putting it up at the kiosk over there.
Which was, or is, would be.
Well, he said it was about, oh,
You told me, and I thought I sent it to someone, but I guess I didn't.
I can probably look it up
Can't
before
be
this
that much.
meeting is over,
It was
but I
like
think it was around
$32.
$40. Well, by the
Oh.
time you have it laminated to make it
We
weatherproof.
should just do
Yeah.
it. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make a
But,
motion.
you know, that's an estimate too. It isn't until you actually do it and generate the cost that you know the true amount.
I'll make a motion.
So,
And I'll
Okay.
second it.
Jean makes a motion, Kim seconds, motion to pay,
well, I guess we should just decide whether we're
Motion.
doing it first of all, then
Okay.
we'll actually do it and come back with an actual invoice for the amount, and we can vote
Okay.
on that amount for reimbursement.
okay. So we have a motion to authorize the lamination and printing of a map to put up at the kiosk. Okay,
Right.
all those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Alrighty,
I say you can do it one fell swoop, but that's okay. I'm saying it costs not to exceed $50 or something.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's true, we could do that.
Do you wanna do it?
should we wanna modify the motion?
We can modify it.
Somebody has to withdraw their motion.
Doesn't matter either way now.
Oh,
I'll
well,
just
we
bring it up
voted
again
on
when
it.
I
I
actually
mean,
have the
we-
bill.
Alright, bring us back the bill, we'll vote on it again.
Yeah, it's easy.
Whatever. Anything else for finance? No? Okay, wonderful. Open Space Committee update?
Oh, we have a lot to talk about. So since our last meeting, as everybody in the committee is now aware, an opportunity came up for a very big conservation project, and that's the Roberts Farm off Addison Road, 470-acre property. Made contact with the Roberts family last October at the county planning charrette and started a conversation, and had our first meeting with them on December 15th, so that was after our last Conservation Commission meeting. And that was just the first meeting to, let's see what we can do. It unfolded very, very fast. Had a wonderful proposal, working with Ian McSweeney from the Russell Piscataqua River Watershed Foundation. Ian's out in the audience. Ian did an absolutely brilliant job of putting together a proposal, getting together with other conservation groups to bring into this. But the basic idea is that the family wanted to sell the property, or most of the property at least. What we came up with is a proposal to obtain a conservation easement by getting a Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program grant, since there are excellent quality prime and state and local important soils on that parcel. That would actually cover a major portion of the value of this property, and getting that grant automatically pays for 50% of the expense of the easement from the USDA. Would require us to come up with a 25% local match to go with that 50%. But getting much of the value of the property out through the easement, then a portion of the property could then turn around and be sold to generate the rest of the money that they're looking for. All this would be protected under the easement, and the buyer of the property would be the New England Forestry Foundation, which maintains lands for conservation and for working active forests. That's kind of how they pay for it. They manage properties. They do manage cuts every now and then. That way they can pay the property taxes and the stewardship and all that. We have some great examples of that in the watershed. The DeLand Forest in New Boston, 700-acre preserve, is owned by them, and with the conservation easement held by the PLC. And there's also properties in Deering where they do the same. So they do this all over New Hampshire, all over New England. They cover the whole New England area. They would make the purchase of the land after much of the value has been removed from the easement. They would be buying the residual value, if you will. And so they would be the owners. It would all be protected by the easements. The forested land that they purchased would be opened up for recreation to the town, passive recreation. Not all, they wouldn't buy all the property, they would buy primarily the forest section, but, you know, most of the property is forested. The family would retain the farmhouse and the active fields close to Addison Road and around the farmhouse. These exact lines haven't been drawn yet because we're still waiting for appraisal and other information to make these final decisions. But again, easement on that, easement on the forested land, sell the forest land to NEFF. It's a little bit of a complicated deal, but a very good one, and all the participating parties are very excited by this, and it's looking extremely good. So we introduced a petition warrant article requesting $390,000 to go towards meeting the local match that would be required, and that will be on the ballot in March. There's a lot of work going on right now. We've been very busy writing the actual grant application, so the word came down that, well, this year the grant application to get in for 2010 funding was early, February 1st. So we're very busy on that at the moment, but we'll make it, everything's coming together. To do a national farm and ranch land protection program, the price is actually determined by an independent third-party appraiser. You could go negotiate a price, but it doesn't matter. The appraiser has to be there. That's the rules of the program. Because the federal government doesn't want to pay more than the fair market value of the property, and want to make sure that the landowner is getting the fair market value. So an appraisal is being worked on as we speak, and we hope to have the preliminary appraisal results literally within a couple of days, because we have to have it before that February 1st deadline. And at that point, we can start talking about the exact numbers involved. When we had to come up with a figure for the warrant article, we kind of made a reasonable guess at what we thought might be a worst-case scenario, and would we have enough that with some money coming from our other conservation grants to be able to cover it, but not every penny in the account, because there's other projects that we want to be able to do as well. But again, we'll know by the deliberative session what the actual numbers are, and have a much better handle on that. As part of this grant application program, one of the things we look for are letters of support from other organizations. So we'd like to ask the Conservation Commission to submit a letter of support for the project to the administrator of the NRF, the Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program grant. I wrote a letter and I sent it to the printer for 10 copies to pass around so you could all look at it, and I realized driving in that those are still back sitting on the printer in the office.
Oh, good.
This is short because I kept it short. I was planning to send, hoping that Conservation Commission send a letter, and then the Open Space Committee can also send a letter, and we can emphasize different points, but keep them shorter. So I'll read it real quick, and we can vote to approve it now, or if you rather I send you a copy email to have a chance to read it, or whatever. But it's addressed to Jody Walker, the Assistant State Conservationist for USDA National NRCS, address in Durham. Dear Ms. Walker, the Goffstown Conservation Commission strongly supports the application for Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program funding to protect the 470-acre Roberts Farm in Goffstown, New Hampshire, submitted by the Russell Piscataquag River Watershed Foundation. Our Goffstown Open Space Committee has worked closely with the Russell Foundation on this project, and all of us are committed to assist with conserving this important property, including fundraising for the easement purchase and transaction expenses. Development pressure is very intense in Goffstown, and we have already lost too many farms and their precious soils. However, despite our proximity to the Manchester urban region, we still have numerous working farms that are an important contributor to our local economy. Our town's master plan and our open space conservation plan both identify the importance of protecting our remaining farmlands and valuable soils. The Roberts Farm is the largest remaining private property in the town and has a history of agricultural production dating back to 1765. Conserving this property is our highest priority project. Please seriously consider supporting the Roberts Farm project to help us preserve our vital local agriculture and to protect our prime and important farmland soils. Sincerely, the Goffstown Conservation Commission. And then I had Kimberly Peace, Chairman. So one question I have is, do I put all of our names on it? Do we want to just have the chairman sign it?
We usually just have the chair sign it.
Do you want to vote to adopt this letter, or would you prefer I email it out so you can read it all again?
Sounds great.
Somebody make
Yeah.
a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the letter as written.
I second. Am I allowed
Like, I wrote it, so I shouldn't second it.
Second, you gonna vote on it?
to? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
And then one quick question I'd like to ask Ian, since he's in the audience. Ian, would it be better for the commission to send the letter directly, or to give it to you to include in the entire package that goes, the entire grant application package?
Probably both would be best, that if you could send directly and then give me copy to include in application.
You should have a copy too with your grant
Yeah,
application,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll look at the whole thing.
So
Right,
do it
yeah.
twice.
I can come by and sign it tomorrow morning if you can get it printed on my way around from school.
So email it to me, I'll print it off.
Okay.
There we go. Easy.
Would it,
So first of all, are there,
would it be stronger to just put in at, a vote of the Conservation Commission on such and such a date? A unanimous vote to support?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
okay, I'll add that and I'll make sure I email it tonight.
I mean, we had a unanimous vote
Yes, we
tonight,
did,
so.
yeah.
We're 2007 format, or you use the old?
It still's under the old, but I think if you did do it, I can go either way.
Okay, I'll send the old. All right, so first of all, are there questions about the project? I know that probably everybody in the room has a different level of exposure to it, and
Well, the question is, where does it stand in terms of, what the selectmen have said? Is there any of that, or we're putting the petition on? Do you have,
that's
a
great
question
point.
is, if it goes before the deliberative session, Susan and I were talking about this, can that wording be changed publicly, or because it's in by petition, is it going to stay that way and go on the ballot?
well, there's no reason to change the wording per se.
No, but could anybody in an audience decide to change?
No,
They
the only
cannot.
thing they can change are dollar amounts. They can adjust the dollar amounts up and down.
They can't change the wording of a petition article?
But they could change the.
Good to
the-
know.
The amount.
Yeah.
We've seen that
Yeah,
happen.
we've seen that in the past.
Yep.
And that could be,
Including adjusting the amount down to zero.
and that could be somebody, so it could be, okay, so then it's important to be there
Oh, yeah.
for the deliberative
Right.
sessions,
Oh, yeah.
right to the very, very end. When are the dates of the deliberative sessions?
Deliberative session
February
is
2nd, next Wednesday.
February
February
2nd,
3rd.
What?
third,
Third.
Is that, but
February
it's Wednesday, right?
3rd,
Okay.
that's the first
February
one?
3rd.
That's
My
the
bad.
town one,
That's
the
the
town.
That's the town.
That's the
I think
town.
really important
Yes.
Okay.
at the high
A
school.
week from tonight. And David has the specific
High
vote
school.
numbers, but it was presented to the budget committee and to the selectmen.
The budget
twice,
committee
actually.
voted a strong majority in favor of the project. They voted 8 in favor, 3 opposed, and 1 abstained because he wanted to think about it some more. Does anybody know what the final selectmen's vote was? I mean,
It was 5-1. I stayed up and watched it. It was, what was it? 1, 2, 3. I think it was 4-1 or 5-1. Scott voted for us and everybody else voted against. So that it will go on the ballot is not recommended by the selectmen. But
Unless they
I
change their
believe they
mind at
could
the
change,
deliberative session.
I believe what happened, they, 2 things that came up, I think there were votes that could be swayed at the town meeting. There was discussion, when they finally got around to discussing it, and I had actually gone home, and then I wished I was still here, but I don't think they would have let us speak. But they felt it was a high amount of money, which we had said could be reduced. They also
well,
felt.
maybe. Well, that remains to be seen.
Right, that remains to be seen, could be reduced. And there was sort of misunderstanding, I think, about the fact that we don't want to take our current fund down to zero. They sort of felt like we weren't really, there was misunderstanding about the fact that we may need every bit of that 225 and then whatever we ask the taxpayers for. So it was kind of, I don't know. Vivian used the word economic crisis about 1,000 times at the meeting. So they really are concerned about the economics of this motion.
And we all are, and so
Right.
the important message that we have to give out, we have to show how, in fact, this does save us tax dollars.
And I think that's the big message we need to push.
That's why the budget committee voted to support it, because it will save Goffstown taxpayers much more money in the long run. If this gets developed, 200 homes, that's a loss, a deficit to the town's revenue of $200,000 a year, conservative estimate, based on studies that have been done all over New Hampshire.
Yeah.
That's $200,000 every year. That's $2 million in 10 years.
And you know what was
That's
interesting is
just
that,
in town support services, that
Right.
doesn't
Right.
even include school.
well, what was interesting, we did such a great job at the budget committee, and we had that cost of community services table and everything at the budget committee, and it was so clear, and then the selectmen kind of got muddied on that, I think, and that was the confusion. I think if we represented at the warrant article meeting, I think there would have been more support. I think they were just sort of confused that we already have a pile of money and we're asking for more. And this is just that their discussion was kind of like, well, they've got money and they want more. And you had answered. Remember, Nick said, well, what do you guys have more money? What are you going to do with that? And I thought we had made it clear that, but there was just sort of like, I don't know, Nick and
Well-
Devanza were kind of going back and forth about that.
We're presenting something that will save Goffstown taxpayers
Right.
money, long run,
Right.
big time. It's a no-brainer.
Right, and I think that
Saves
that's
so much.
what we
We're-
have to
we're-
keep
It would
pushing.
cost an orders of magnitude more that we'll spend if we don't do this.
Right.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and we need to make that clear to everybody, and we will.
Yeah, I just think I think that we could sway them. And I think that that's what we need to keep saying to the voters, is that it's gonna save money. So,
So I shouldn't ask, but I'm sure that that your open space committee is completely on top of, PR, and then will you be asking volunteers to help out?
Well, it's not just the Open Space Committee, there's many people in the community that have already expressed a strong interest
Okay.
and are going to be working to mount a campaign. Campaign will probably get started after the deliberative session, because
Okay.
there's so much going on before then.
Okay.
But the organization, Friends of Goffstown Land Conservation, will play a very active role in mounting the campaign and organizing people for it, so it's gonna be a major effort. But once it's explained and made clear, I mean, people go, oh, yeah, it's a no-brainer. And so it's gonna be an easy sell if the information is distributed widely and clearly. It simplifies it greatly.
and for those of you who don't know, also the selectmen voted to go ahead and put on the warrant article the reduction in the land use change tax. So the reduction from 100% to 75%, with 25% going into the general fund.
Which was another reason I explained to them why, well, we don't wanna take it down to zero when at the same time you're cutting the revenue, attempting to cut the revenue stream.
Right, and I was wondering if we wanted to discuss how we wanted to change that at next week's meeting? No? Okay. There's no discussion about that?
How we wanna do what?
I think we should just show up at the
We'll just
deliberative
show
session
up,
in
right?
force.
I mean, cause we
And
can't
explain
change
our
it, I mean,
position.
the warrant's been set.
All right. Anything else open space wants to add?
No, that's the big story.
It's a big story, all right.
Big story.
That is a big story, yes. Okay. Minutes? Did I read the minutes and sent comment back. I don't remember what I changed. I think I just said it was okay.
Yeah, this
I
was
didn't,
Okay.
I didn't see anything that.
So, anybody else get a chance to read the minutes from the December 16th meeting?
I wasn't here, but I read them.
Okay, anybody want to vote to approve them? Anyone that was here? Dina vote to approve, anyone
And
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Um,
Who did the motion? I did.
Kim seconded. Those opposed? Abstained? Susan abstaining?
I
Okay.
wasn't here.
Oh, Karen abstaining? Okay, thank you. All right, timber cut permits, we have timber cut permit on Shanty Road, I don't even know where that is.
Portage, it's the old, Portage went, when they built Portage Road, it started out on Shanty and then made a slight right turn and became Portage all the way through, and Shanty Road still continues on down to Black Brook Road. I mean, to Black Brook, no road. It starts at the road and goes down. And do you have the plot plan on that?
It's kind of triangular, it's 1126-1, tax map and lot.
Right. Did they put the abutters on there by any chance?
I don't think abutters need to be notified, do they?
No.
No,
Not for timber cuts?
no, it doesn't have
Do they
abutters
have,
listed.
do they have a survey or anything?
No. I don't know what they're required for for a timber cut, so I don't know.
Who, who's doing it?
Teague?
No, who's the logger? Is there, are they doing it themselves?
Whoa, I don't
They
know.
wrote, it's on there, I think they wrote themselves, it's on the
It's-
front page.
it says
Tells how many what they plan on cutting.
Okay, oh, it says owner, yeah. So there isn't a logger forester, it's just owner. It's small, like 5 tons of spruce, 20 tons of hemlock. It's not a lot. 15 tons of pine and 5 of whole tree chips. So it's not big.
And are they going in on Shanty Road?
It doesn't say. It says a 6-acre lot, acreage of cut 1.5. It does not say how they're accessing the parcel. I would assume Shanty Road, because there's,
I'm in a-
Shanty Road wraps around it, so. Anyone have any, you wanna see it? I'll pass that over. Okay. Go through correspondence or go to plans?
Correspondence.
Go through correspondence, all right. The email from Historic District, we got an email from the Historic District Commission requesting note to not support the planning board zoning ordinance, and then they actually, planning board recommended it, and that it was actually changed. The Historic District actually revised their request. So planning board is going to recommend the amendment, and it's going forth before the voters. They're changing the Historic District, to remove the land off the back of a farm, and, who is it?
Naser.
Naser, yeah. I have a map and lot somewhere on it, but basically, sorry. It's on Parker Station Road. Yeah, so, and it went forward, I thought that they gave a good explanation out to planning, and Kyle, you were there, right? So I don't think we have any motion, anything we need to do on that? No. This is a letter from DES to Scott Buckland, about his retaining wall. DES will be recommending formal enforcement action because the retaining wall will require an after-the-fact application or a restoration plan to remove the wall and restore the bank. In addition, there remains an ongoing investigation in regard to material being released into the river from your property. So, they are still continuing. Okay, because and last month, if you all remember, they said that they weren't going to pursue the tree removal, but this is same property now. Okay, let's see, Mrs. Coughlin's, this is Woodland Village's, amendment of reducing the number of units from 86 to 76. So this is their alteration of terrain permit. Okay, I didn't know they reduced it, but okay, good. DES, Acknowledges the receipt of the report of a Concom of a local investigation from Sharon.
Alteration of terrain, or because they just were doing the wrong.
This is for Sharon on Lindsay Way. The application is administratively incomplete.
Forced to.
There's no, oh, this is what they wanted us to sign the minimum expedited. And we didn't sign the minimum expedited, so DES is now saying,
The numbers.
by the way, you didn't sign it, so, they have to resubmit.
And that's one of the plans from tonight we're supposed to discuss, so.
Yes.
She didn't know that it was reduced from 80-something to 70.
Yes, and this is, what is this? Oh, here's a letter from the assessor,
Mm-hmm.
from Scott Bartlett, discussing the petition warrant article. Conservation Commission voted not to support it. Not much to do about that.
Does it have much detail in it? Because looking at the handout that we got previously, and, what was presented and then what was said later to the selectmen were not exactly the same.
It's a 3-page letter with 5 or 6 points detailed on it. So,
Can I back up to
Yes.
we filed a complaint on the Sharon?
last month, we didn't sign the minimum expedited because we disagreed with the plan. The plan wasn't the plan hasn't been approved by planning. And so they came forward with the minimum expedited, even though it was kind of out of process. So we didn't sign it. So, and I don't think actually that they're fall within a minimum expedited anyway. I think that they have bigger impacts, and I think that's part of the disagreement over it. So this is the one on Lindsay Way. So,
Like, I wanted to comment on something. It's not specific to this, but it's specific to filing complaints with DES.
yes.
When are we, as a commission, gonna file a complaint with DES relative to St. Ange
Oh,
on Henry Bridge Road?
Oh,
It's ridiculous what's going on.
I
down there.
agree.
It's happening right under our noses.
agree,
But we do it all the time.
Yes.
We've,
multiple
over the years,
times.
We have filed complaints,
This one's worth it. I
This
mean,
is-
because
but you-
aerial photographs are gonna show the encroachment into that
but we've done
wetland.
it, and they come back, and then they
They did.
say,
They
it
even
came
had
right,
the-
you were,
they had-
she was, I don't mean, I'm sorry, Collis. You had done it when you were chairperson,
a
and they
number
came
of
back and
times, and
DE
they-
said no
And
violation.
they had they had
And how long
somebody
ago
in
was that?
field.
When
come
she
on.
was chairman.
Was
Well,
it 2 years ago?
Believe me, they've been filling every year since then.
Yes.
And
Oh,
so all
it's-
you gotta do is look at the aerial photographs.
Oh, I
and you'll see
know.
the creep, and it's on the
Did you say creep or
downstream
creek?
limits
Yep.
of one of our designated prime wetlands.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yes,
Do
we all do.
have updated aerial for
If,
within the past year?
I
or
think
two?
if you'd like to draft something, we'd be happy to
We'd be
support it.
very happy.
Has to
Please.
come from,
David.
come from the,
Well,
Think of what you're asking.
that's true. All right, well, and, and the other one is off of 22 Maple Avenue, which turned out to be my plow guy. So he also needs to be reported. But I'll draft a letter for the St. Ange property.
Well, it's a complaint
my-
form. You just download it off the internet.
Yeah, I know, but it's,
Put
Not as
a cover
easy.
letter with it, I guess, but.
yes.
but honestly,
It
Collis,
just,
we have, and we did have,
Yep.
a fella came, cause at the same time with that gravel,
I
or
was gonna
the fellow that was removing stuff from that,
On Henry
that's-
Bridge, on
Yeah, on the.
Right, yep.
you did both of them at the same
Yeah,
time.
but
If we
at the
wanna
same
vote
time,
on
they
it,
had
if we wanna
somebody
vote
come
on it,
in
I
and
can
they
fill
said
out
they
the
took
complaint
pictures
form and
all this
forward it.
Nothing had happened.
You guys wanna make a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
I'm gonna make the motion.
She-
You wanna say something?
Give me the authority to submit a
No, she
complaint
made the
form for the, based on the Conservation Commission?
Yep.
Okay. Susan seconded.
Observations by Conservation Commission drive-bys.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, Patty and I will work on that. Thank you, okay. So, anyway, where was I? Okay, turn that one
I'm
on.
really glad you brought it up.
Yes, you're right.
Again.
You've done it before, but you're right, we'll chase it again.
Just-
Okay, what is this, the Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee? I don't think there's anything in our town. We really should have somebody go to these meetings, but we never have anybody who can.
Well, yeah, sometimes, those meetings 3 to 5, 1 to 4.
No, this is the
It's during the-
Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee, it's 6:30, the next one is, well, the last one's January 18th, sorry, I don't know when the next one is. But, yeah, they're in the evening, they
That
just.
was in the evening?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, zoning board adjustment for, oh yeah, Woodland Trust will be on February 2nd, which is Tuesday. Woodland Trust has submitted a request for special exception to allow multifamily housing on a lot in a residential district. Proposes subdividing the existing 68-acre lot into 2 lots. Okay, I think this is what we've seen before, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's, the other one doesn't have anything to do with us, so, okay, that's zoning. All right, Lakeside Magazine, if anybody wants to peruse that. And then what is this? The estate of Michael Nelville, Wetlands File 222 Elm Street. The DES conducted an inspection of 222 Elm Street, map 36, lot 12. And, let's see, approximately 252 square feet of Glen Lake bed bottom has been impacted by the installation of a breakwater, 18 linear feet of shoreline, 135 feet of shoreline. That was in July of 2009. In September 2009, DES observed that a portion of the breakwater was removed, but not completely. DES has no record of permit issued. In response, you requested to take the following actions. By May, completely remove the material used to create the breakwater, conduct restoration work, and by May, completely remove the cinder block retaining wall. Deposit all materials outside of the jurisdiction. Please note that the entire property is located within 250 feet of Glen Lake, subjected to Comprehensive Shoreline Protection Act.
Now, I'm just gonna comment, the gentleman that owned that passed away in June.
Okay.
And that, is his ex-wife that obviously was left it, so I don't know if
Ah.
it's something that happened before he passed away.
Okay. So they've been made aware of this, and hopefully they're working on it, so.
I don't know, I just felt bad for that letter coming in.
Eric Skuglin, sincerely, Mr. Wetland Administrator. What else? That's all that I have here on the pile. Did I cover the 7? Oh, okay, yep, okay, so now we're on to plans. All right. Split up that, because Patty needs those back. Okay, plans, we have map 5, lot 56-3 and 56-4, Langley, Mast Road, oops, goes over here, and Tatro.
That you got mailed to you, and I have a big one here.
Okay. This is basically, oops, not on the top, what is it, map 5, 56-3?
Tatro Drive, Tatro?
What they're doing is taking out the veterinarian portion, the veterinarian clinic. They're gonna take out that site plan, create its own lot. The medical office, they're gonna make a condominium form of ownership.
That's
Why
this
did,
thing
why
over
are
here,
they, not that it really matters, but why?
Legal maneuverings. So,
Because the condo will have whoever owns the units will each own their own. And I'm sure they don't want to have the veterinarian part of it. Because that will still be owned by the owner currently. And I believe Catholic Medical Center is the one that's looking at going.
That's what I heard too.
So do we have any, oh, it even says it on the plan, Catholic Medical Center on the sign.
Oh.
So do we have any
No,
comment on
and
this?
Did they get the curb cut?
Well, that would be separate building.
It shows it on the map, but did they get the curb cut onto, Mass
Back on the
Road?
Mass Road?
I don't know for. I mean, this is just coming into planning for completeness, the whole proposal. So this is like your official first technical review.
Oh, I see.
They'll be in and then they'll be on again February 11th.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
I don't want a sidewalk.
That,
I know.
if it's that road, it's going all through wet.
It's that, but you guys, that's an emergency access easement. But this is saying removal of previously approved easement area.
One of these, the emergency access easement is being removed.
Yes, okay, so see the one on, like, the second page in your pile, that lined emergency access easement, so that's good.
Then they're not going through the wet.
That's
this
right,
wasn't in there.
because they made them do that.
And that's actually on the agenda too, to have that removed.
So they're still gonna have the two, one's gonna come in off the cul-de-sac, and the other one is getting the curb cut to come in off of Mast Road then?
No,
No.
that's an emergency access easement that they're asking to be, to remove.
Remove, so it won't be there
There's only
anymore.
one way in, just off the cul-de-sac.
Right.
How are they gonna access that other building?
They're coming from here.
Off the back of the
On
cul-de-sac.
the back.
So that road that circle loops on through, the loop, the second half of the loop is being removed. Which is good, it's reducing their wetland crossing.
Oh, the veterinary clinic will have to have a curb cut down
That's
below.
what-
but
That's what I'm trying to.
We're not dealing with that, I don't think, on this plan, are we?
Removing it.
That was, it was approved, and then if they modify,
They want it
then,
away.
then come in again, that's, it's been conditionally approved.
They're not crossing the wetlands coming in off.
Access off
No.
Mass Road?
This actually has no wetland impact, I don't think.
Right, the veterinary clinic does. Oh, this other one does.
No, the back one doesn't.
It shows a crossing over a
Yeah, it's
wetland.
pretty wet up there.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, we have to cross that, right.
It's wet.
There's a culvert.
We initially approved that, though, when we had the initial site walk. Evelyn, didn't you and I do that?
Yes.
Oh, this is that.
They were gonna cross the wetland to get to that, at the time it was a kinder care, but now it's something different, but that's it. Cause they're staying out of the, they've got the parking lot out of the buffer. All they're doing is crossing it to access the parcel.
It's about the only dry spot around there.
It really is.
So, and they've made good use of it.
Yeah, I don't really wanna walk it, or, I don't know, if anybody has any comment on it, it's,
I think we
Not
already did,
interested.
yeah, it's not a huge,
Walk that property
so many
ad
times, right?
nauseum.
so can we just say, no comments or, no comments of, what do we say? No
Yep.
comments or concerns?
Yep.
Right.
No comments or concerns, all right,
Correct.
good, wonderful. Okay, moving on, map 5, lot 61-1, Brookfield Investment Group, wait, can we get to Lesnick first, though? Sorry, let me jump in front of that one, let's do Lesnick. Why did Lesnick come back to us, Patty?
They're getting ready to come in. They submitted a revised plan, so I gave them revised plans, which are small ones that you have in front of you.
Yes,
that
the
did not get
Lesnick and
mailed to you.
Checkerberry.
And I do have a big one of that one, too.
I'm going on record recusing myself.
Okay.
They reduced the lots, though. It's not, it used to be 8.
Right.
Right.
So what are we
It's now
down to
three.
now? 3?
Add 3.
Oh,
You
Oh,
want
yeah.
the big plan?
Down 8 down to 3 is good. Well, they really, if you had walked it,
yeah.
They
there's
need
no
to.
way, no way for 8, and even they're pushing it for 3. It's wet, it's
Wait a
wet.
minute, maybe it's not. No, it is 3. 1, 2, 3.
Let me think where the access is.
That's what I was looking too.
Do we wanna, well, we need to make comments, so review it and give me some comments. Facilitate approval, so as to create 1 new lot, 3 lots total, yes,
3 total, so
3
the
total.
one that already
Creating
has
2
a
new.
house is 1.
Creating, oh, the house is 1.
House is 1, so we're having,
Because he was my husband's.
yeah, there's no house up front here anymore. We took the house down.
Creating 2 new ones.
2. Okay, they were gonna
Right.
create 8 new ones before.
So it's 10 acres, existing lot is 7 acres, existing lot 2.5 acres, so there'll be 1 new lot.
1 and 2.
Two lots.
Two new lots, aren't there?
So much better.
2 lots.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That goofy road.
2 lots.
Sorry, it says facilitate approval of the subdivision shown so as to create 1 new lot, 3 lots total.
Oh, that's
Oh.
because it is 2 parcels, 2 separate parcels currently.
Okay.
And they're
Oh, yeah, that's right.
combining them and re-subdividing them.
They had 2 lots, 2 parcels.
So there's 2 new houses, basically. The proposed
Proposed-
common drive up to these 2. They're 100 feet out of that buffer, they're 100 feet, they're up that buffer.
Oh, that's interesting.
What don't we like about this plan?
Proposed common drive.
Yeah, planning's gonna give them a common drive for this?
This is just coming back to them.
That's not our issue.
Well,
It won't be on until February.
and from what I see, they're out of both wetlands and buffers. So, there's that proposed culvert exists, right? That the common drive's gonna cross? That's an existing culvert?
Dredge and fill area.
Shouldn't we have a
proposed culvert.
presentation?
Oh, look, they were gonna have a dredge and fill permit for the, that big wetland in the middle, and it's abrogated. Which means they don't need it anymore.
Cause they're not building in there yet.
Right.
Gonna build there.
All right.
So basically, those two houses, if you walk that land, the two houses, isn't that the field area? When we walked that, that's pretty much the field back in there that they're
Yeah.
putting the houses in. The wet was down the,
It still looks deep.
Not
I mean,
really,
they're out of the
not
wet, but
really.
it still
One of
looks
them is in
kinda,
the field.
yeah.
what is the other?
The second one is,
The second house.
I know, I'm, should I go move?
Oh, yes, you're not allowed to speak.
No, I'm not speaking.
I can't see the lot, where's the lot line? Where's the lot line of these?
Well,
Well, it looks like it's running up between the edge of the common drive.
yeah, it's going right, yes, it's
On the
that
other side?
diagonal kind of thing in the middle, between the two circles.
Oh,
There's
that's it,
that
right here. Okay, I
diagonal.
see it.
Oh.
Right, okay, so both houses are in the back, like,
Yes.
both lots. How big are those lots?
It says 7.8, 2.5, and,
Well, wait.
well, no,
4,
existing lot is 7.8, and the other lot's 2.5. So, sorry,
No,
I'm reading
No.
it wrong. Proposed lot
2.3.
2.3 and proposed lot 3.7.
3.7 and 2.
4.23,
It's the original.
4.3 for the other.
Do you want them to come back, to come in? They're not gonna be until February 25th. You have a meeting before. I know you have, Southern New Hampshire.
Well, I don't know why we need to see it again if they're out of the wetlands and they're out of the buffers. I think it looks like a pretty decent plan. What are our concerns? I mean, I know we had concerns about this plan before, but from what I'm seeing,
Still. It's much better than what the other.
yes, it's much better.
It's still gonna have a lot of water, but it's a lot better than what they had before.
I mean, it's all gonna run downhill and it's all gonna run into that
It's gonna
little
run to the
wetland.
neighbors, yeah.
They're upgrading all those culverts, though. I know Megan has talked about the culvert on Lesnick has to be
Lesnick.
upgraded.
Right. And then they're proposing a culvert for the driveway crossing.
Right.
I guess it's just making sure those are sized correctly for the amount of water. There's a huge amount of water coming off that hill now.
Well, we could make a comment to that effect.
For culverts.
Culvert, yeah, 'cause it is a
We
huge.
know all about the water coming off from that, because our friends are down there.
Appropriately.
What's his name? The big
Woodland?
development.
Woodland.
Yeah,
Woodland.
Woodland.
Yeah, it goes right down into that. It's right on the
Okay.
other side
Same,
of the.
same hillside
Right.
runoff.
It's 10 till 9. Anybody else want to make any other comments? Just a comment that we'd like to make sure that the driveway crossing culvert and the culvert at Lesnick are appropriately sized for the water.
And Evan, remember, we walked that,
Yeah.
the culvert on, Checkerberry needed to be
Clean.
clean. It
Oh,
was
that's
the
that
catch
clogged
basin
one, yes.
didn't take the water. It came
Yes.
down and it just flooded out those people because the catch basins weren't clean.
And the culvert at Checkerberry, too.
Right on Checkerberry down there.
But I know that Megan has worked with them about that, so.
Because I see they're showing that, but
I know, I noticed that.
The non-culvert.
that was a non-culvert, it wasn't carrying the water.
Okay. Okay, anything else? All right. And then also, Patty, we have Sharon here in front of me, too, on Lindsay Way.
Yep, that just came in, like 2 sections, actually. That just came in this week, and
For Lindsay Way,
they are on tomorrow night.
Is it this one?
You'll see I stamped
On the
page
sidewalk
3 through
there.
6, January 26th. That's when I got the last page.
Oh, gee.
Okay. How, do you know how it's different?
No, I haven't
He
reviewed.
gave us a cover
The
letter.
minor engineering, I guess the engineering that Megan had is what he had to, like, he has to show the driveways and, address some of the engineering concerns is what Steve had said to me.
See, no, it's 11 to 13 on sheets S1 and S2. Oh, it's 11 to 13?
Absolutely a ton of it.
Oh, MPDES. definition, okay. I don't know
Are
what that
these
is.
up for
I've
sidewalks?
looked at the easement. We walked this, Kim and,
Okay.
and then we made comment and now they're revising. Still stuff parked there. I've looked at the easements between lots 38 and 38-1 and tried adding some additional labeling to make the easement's dimensions clearer.
38 and 38.
Says Matt needs some additional time for his work. Did Matt drop off, are these the new plans?
Map dropped off, the 3 through, the last 4 pages. The first 2 pages were dropped off by Joe Wickert after I had done your mailing on Friday.
Lindsay Way has a lot of water coming down.
Yes, it
Well,
does.
and planning didn't get the last 4 pages mailed to them, so they're gonna first time see the last 4 pages at the meeting.
Well, I think that our comment should be that we would like to see the applicant come back and present the changes to us. Because this is a contentious plan and very wet and,
On the front, these are what he addressed, of the changes that were supposed to be done. This is, if you read them 1 through 5.
I know,
The memo
but it's
attached to
really.
the front, that's what the changes are on the plan.
Well, it's 11 through 13 don't really make much sense for us. Retuning the swale and fixing the head wall. I don't know where that is. Retuning the swale and fixing the head wall. Retuning what swale and fixing what head wall?
That's why I think we need a presentation.
Yes.
You wanna
yeah.
present, okay.
I just remember one of those big storms we went, oh my God, this is like a river going down.
This,
This
look at,
washing.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
There's
it's
still a
just-
lot of it in the buffers.
But look at the driveways. I mean, they're,
And if you were to drive by that last lot down by East Dunbarton Road, point of contention there is used as an area for construction material. There's trucks there now, you know, and at one time, this was an open area, and, a good year ago, I have the dates, it was filled in to be level to, then a little path to go over the culvert there to now drive his vehicles every day back and forth into that land. And it was leveled off.
Let's have them come in and present it.
So I'll let Steve know that the commission requests the applicant to come before them at their February meeting to explain the changes.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Steve was retired.
We'll ask him to explain again why he keeps
changed
parking
my mind. No, no,
construction materials in the wetland buffer.
I think I would like a, why don't we,
What?
can we ask Patty a question after we finish this business? I just wanted a question, so what is the status of the planning board now in terms of who's the planner, or, is Steve being retained as a consultant?
Yes,
He is.
for
and-
it's the end of this month is his official retirement.
All right,
And then they've contracted him for 5 additional weeks. And they are in the process of interviewing him.
oh, you mean, staying on for 5 additional weeks?
Oh, and they're
After that as a
interviewing the planners?
consultant.
Okay, so
they
they're
put an
not
ad up.
having him come
Um,
in every once in a while, or,
Yeah, no, he's still gonna go to the planning board meetings. He's gonna
Okay.
come in like twice a week,
How many applicants
just for
did
the
we
next
get?
5 weeks?
just for the next 5 weeks.
How many applicants did we get?
I don't know anything about it. I know they've put the ad out and again, I don't know if they're actually interviewing, but I know they're getting applications.
Okay, so the last one, okay, one more thing. Map 5, lot 61-1 and 95-1, Brookfield Investment Group, Norman and Wallace and Mass Road, site plan for recreational ball fields. Planning board did not accept the application, new application must be submitted. So are we looking at this application tonight?
No, this
No.
one need to.
Okay. Will we get a new application before the town meeting?
They're gonna come back, no, not before town meeting.
Not before town
There's
meeting.
a petition out there that's gonna be before. Yeah, they're able to session.
Do you wanna say anything? Are you on the petition? Were you the initiative? Do you wanna say anything about it?
It's an opportunity to purchase a sizable piece of land. I don't know how much you've heard about this, Susan. I meant to talk to you about this at some point in time.
Nada.
Sizable piece of land, to site a comprehensive recreation complex, consolidated recreation complex on the property. But the design hasn't been done, so they're gonna come back. They still wanna remove gravel from the site, so they're just gonna come back with a gravel,
Okay.
application for a gravel operation.
And it was $600,000 for, what's the size?
Oh, what's, I don't know, 127 acres, about 65 is upland buildable.
Is this the Monty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's adjacent to the high school behind the building.
And is this tied into Monty's other parcel up, further up the mountain? No, this is just this. Okay. Did I misspeak the other night? If this is town-owned, we still have to have 100-foot off buffers?
No. But that'll have to come into the design plan.
Right.
Which is, would hope that we would
Would stay.
require as much as we could compliance with 100-foot buffer.
Right. Okay, Susan?
Yes, I have a question. Well, I'm on the Parks and Rec, we know nothing about this. Is there,
Yeah.
I mean, how
Yeah.
can this go before the town when it has had no input from the commission that's gonna have to deal, I mean, the fields?
Well, it's only a request to purchase property at this point. So,
And it was submitted by petition.
Interesting, interesting. Well, I think they want support coming from the people that are using it, are gonna use it. Anyway, okay. It was news to me. I saw this and I thought,
petition makers only have so much energy
Right.
to dedicate.
okay.
Well, wait a second, then, oh, I mean, I understand, is this, if the petition, is this a public? It's gonna be public, it's not gonna be just for a soccer league
No,
or a
no,
little
no, no, no.
little league.
No.
So if it's public, they should have gone to our Parks and Rec, okay?
We ready, are we done? I'm done.
Yeah, oh, yes, we're done. Does anybody else have any, I'm sorry.
Before you adjourn, I had one more comment.
Oh, yes.
I want to get back to the St. Ange property. I would
Okay.
also like to ask our code enforcement officer if that's an allowed use in that zone. And if it is, do they have an approved site plan? Because it's a commercial operation that's been expanded over time, and they should have an approved site plan.
Clean that area up.
I think it's grandfathered,
Because it's been there so long.
because it's been there so long.
Yeah.
Because I know this
But-
question's been
But it-
asked to
but
Derek,
it's
and I
still
don't
been
remember.
expanded. It's been
Oh.
expanded
I know
radically.
he's had DES too, he's called them, the same thing as they're, I don't see.
Well, you should have
I'm gonna start
determination from code enforcement officer. It's allowed use.
Can we send them an official memo from Concom saying we'd like the site reviewed again in terms of its zoning applicability
And whether or
And
not it's-
relative to the expansion.
and whether or not
relative
it's
to
got an
the
approved site plan.
expansion?
I don't think there's a site plan though.
I'm
I can tell
sure
you.
there isn't.
I'm sure there is.
I mean, those, it wasn't that long ago, those trucks were parked right on the road. Now they're like 3 truck lengths back off the road. With all kinds of stuff stored on the site. It's
I have
like
bad luck with plow guys, because that was my original plow guy when I first moved here. I have bad plow guys.
I have one.
Okay, Susan?
The Parks and Rec Commission is having an open house February 14th from 2 to 4 for David French. He's leaving. I wanted you to know that. And hopefully,
Valentine's Day.
David, it's Valentine's Day, February 14th from 2 to 4 at the Rec Center. And hopefully by then, we will have a new director, which we will hopefully, if he's available, we'll have him back introducing. So,
Good.
Thanks for the invite.
And Evelyn, aren't you on the Stark Scenic Byway? Isn't that the charrette? Aren't you?
I am, but I
Okay.
can't ever attend any of them. They're all, well, you know, they have the same thing. The meetings will be in the afternoon, or I'm away, or whatever, so, yeah. So actually, what I need to do is probably send them a note, because they did ask a note, is there anybody that doesn't want to be on it anymore? And
Oh.
I may send them a note, say, I may not be on it anymore.
If anybody else would like to be on the Stark Scenic Byway. Jeez, like, don't look at me. Okay, anybody else have anything else they'd want to add? All right, so maybe make a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?